Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really jumping into the Bhagavad Gita's final chapter, chapter 18.
Yeah, the big finale.
Exactly. And we're using materials you sent in. Thanks for those. Specifically, we've got the Bhagavad Gita overview, chapter 18 from the spiritual scientists, and also Gita chapter 18 from Vedanta students.
Great sources. Chapter 18 really ties everything together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And having these different takes, like the overview and the more verse-focused one, is helpful.
It really is. So our mission, let's say, for this deep dive is to pull out the practical stuff, the actionable insights about work, life, challenges, understanding ourselves.
Without getting totally bogged down in, like, every single detail.
Right. We want those aha moments for you listening.
Okay, so let's dive in. Arjuna kicks it off, right? He asks about Tyaga and Sannyasa. What's the difference?
Well, Krishna's pretty direct here. He basically says sannyasa is giving up actions that are done purely for fulfilling desires. Kamyanam karmanam nyasam sannyasam kavayavitu. Desire is the key. So it's less about if you work and more why you work. Letting go of being attached to getting something specific out of it.
Exactly. It's the motivation.
Okay. And the sources also talk about a different kind of renunciation, one we might see more often.
Ah, yeah, rajasic renunciation. That's when you quit something just because it's, well, annoying or difficult, or you're maybe scared of failing.
Right. The spiritual scientist source had that good analogy.
Oh, the gym one. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us that one.
So think about it. Going to the gym, it can be tough, right? Sometimes it even hurts a bit, but you do it for a bigger reason: health, fitness.
Makes sense.
Rajasic renunciation is like saying, ugh, the gym is hard, I'm just not going to go, even though you know it's good for you. You're just avoiding the hassle.
So you got to ask yourself, am I ditching this because it's genuinely not right, or am I just dodging the discomfort?
Precisely. Real growth often happens right outside that comfort zone.
So true renunciation isn't just dodging problems. It needs like a bigger why.
Exactly. A higher purpose, maybe serving some ideal or making a real contribution, not just aiming for a problem-free life, because let's be honest.
That doesn't really exist.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Some effort, even discomfort, is usually part of anything worthwhile.
Okay, that clears up renunciation. Now, the Gita also breaks down how things get done, right? The mechanics of action.
Yes, the 5 factors. Krishna brings these up, drawing from the Sankhya system, which, is one of those really old Indian philosophies about understanding the world.
Right, it gives a broader picture than just focusing on the person acting. So what are these 5?
Okay, so you've got Karta, that's the doer, us. Then Karanam, the tools or senses we use. Adhishtanam, the place, the environment, the situation. Cheshta, the actual effort we put in. And finally, Daiva.
Daiva. That's like destiny, fate, the stuff we don't control.
Yeah, destiny, divine will, unforeseen circumstances, those external factors.
It's a good reminder that success isn't just about us trying hard. So many pieces have to fit.
Totally. The musician example from the source is good. You need talent, Karta, your instrument, Karanam, a good venue, Atishtanam, loads of practice, Cheshta.
And even then, the audience might be off, or a string breaks, Daiva.
Exactly. So maybe think about a recent project or something you tried. Which factor, looking back, really made the difference? Was it your effort, the place, or something totally unexpected?
That's a useful way to analyze things. And the source mentioned reasons why things don't work out sometimes.
Yeah, 3 main ones. Maybe the work just isn't a good fit for your skills, or the environment is really unhelpful, I'll teach them again, or, well, you just didn't try hard enough, not enough cheshta.
The Srila Prabhupada example was interesting there. Struggling in one place, then succeeding elsewhere. Environment matters.
Hugely. It shows how Atishtanam can be a game changer.
Yeah.
And then there's Daiva. Yeah. Sometimes outcomes are just outside our hands, like an author getting famous after they're gone.
But the Gita warns against just blaming Daiva for everything.
Right. Definitely. It's like, okay, acknowledge Daiva, but first, really look at the other 4. Did I do my part? Were the tools right? Was the situation suitable? Was the effort sufficient? Don't just jump to, oh, it was fate. Analyze rationally first.
It's about owning what we can influence while still accepting the bigger picture. And this idea that we're not the only doer is important too.
Very. Success and failure are usually a team effort involving all 5 factors, not just our own willpower.
Okay, shifting focus a bit, understanding ourselves. There's that distinction the source makes between losing something and being lost.
Oh, that's powerful. I have lost. That's a setback, temporary. I am lost. That's much deeper. like lacking direction, purpose. And the source says that feeling is way more damaging. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. It hits your core. Having
Right.
that inner compass feels crucial. And the Gita brings in other internal drivers too.
Yes, Jnana knowledge, buddhi intelligence or understanding, and drudi determination, resolve, plus sukha, happiness, as the motivator behind it all.
And these aren't static. They can be influenced.
Right, by the three guna sattva, goodness, clarity, rajas, passion, activity, and tamas, ignorance, inertia. So your knowledge, your intelligence, your determination, they can all be predominantly sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic.
And that colors how we see things. The example of buddhi in ignorance.
Ah, the alcohol example. Yeah, that's pretty stark. The campaigner sees the insect die in alcohol and thinks, see? Poison.
But the alcoholic sees the same
And
thing.
thinks, wow, it kills germs. It must be good for me. That's tamathic buddhi intelligence, completely warped by ignorance, seeing things backwards. A real reminder to cultivate clarity.
It really shows how biases can literally change what you perceive. Okay, let's talk about work as worship. We hear that phrase a lot.
We do, but the Gita's point, as the sources clarify, is more like worship the Lord through your work. It's not that the work itself is God.
So there's dignity in all work, ethically speaking.
For sure. But the spiritual point is about the intention, the offering, making your work a way to connect to something higher, not just focusing on the task for its own sake.
So liberation isn't just about being productive in the material sense.
No, it's about connecting with the divine. Your work can be a path towards that if you approach it with that spirit of offering,
Got it. Now, near the end of the chapter, Krishna really emphasizes what he's sharing.
He does. The spiritual scientist source points out these intensifiers Krishna uses in verses 64 to 66. Words like guhya, paramam,
What do they signify?
guhya, most confidential, paramam, supreme word, dridam, a firm promise, ishta, because you're dear to me, tihitam, for your benefit. It's like Krishna is leaning in, saying, listen, this is really important, and I'm telling you this because I care deeply about you.
Like a doctor being very serious, but also very caring with a patient.
Exactly that feeling. It shows his determination for Arjuna, not just asking for determination from him.
And that leads to that incredible assurance, moksha is shami.
Which basically means I'll take care of everything. Like that doctor saying, don't worry, I've got this.
Right.
Even if complications arise, I'll handle it. It's a profound guarantee.
Wow, that's huge. And there's that image of the rope, too. Krishna reaching out.
Yeah, the person trapped in the well analogy from the source.
Hmm.
Krishna keeps lowering the rope of grace, maybe through teachings like the Gita, maybe through people sharing it, maybe just through hearing this discussion right now. He keeps offering ways to connect.
It suggests there are many ways up, many ways to grab that rope.
Definitely. Just connect, somehow. That seems to be the urging.
So the dialogue ends, and Sanjaya gives his report to Dhritarashtra.
And his final message is pretty clear, though indirect. Where Krishna and Arjuna are where divine guidance and dedicated human effort meet, that's where you'll find success, prosperity, victory.
On the battlefield, yes, but also universally.
Universally. Aligning with that higher will, putting in your best effort, that's the path to overcoming life's dualities and finding true success.
So bringing it all together from this chapter, we've looked at renunciation, tyaga versus sannyasa, the need for purpose, detachment.
Krishna consciousness, those 5 factors of action. The gunas influencing our knowledge, intelligence, determination, happiness. How sattva helps free us.
And those practical reasons for failure, wrong work, wrong place, not enough effort, lots to chew on.
Definitely. And the Vedanta student's source adds even more layers, particularly on renunciation.
Right, they talk about sarva karma parityaga, giving up all actions, but then there's a counter.
Yeah, the idea that, well, pretty much any action in this world has some tiny flaw or imperfection. So maybe giving up everything isn't the immediate goal. It mentions yagya, dana, tapa, sacrifice, charity, austerity shouldn't be abandoned lightly, especially while the mind is still maturing.
So it distinguishes giving up the fruits from giving up the action itself?
Exactly. Tyaga is framed as giving up the laukika phala, the worldly, material benefits you might expect, but not necessarily the vedika phala, the spiritual benefits that come from doing your duty selflessly.
Which is different from kamya karma sannyasa.
Which is giving up actions that are purely driven by selfish desires. The big emphasis is on doing your duty without attachment to results, because that's what leads to chitta-shuddhi.
Chitta-shuddhi, purification of the mind.
Yeah, clearing out the mental clutter, the attachments, the negativity, makes it easier to see clearly and act rightly.
And just quitting your duties out of confusion isn't the way.
No, that's called tamasika renunciation, dull, ignorant. Verse 7 is pretty explicit. Abandoning obligatory actions out of delusion isn't proper.
So what's the sattvic way?
Sattvic karma is doing your duty without attachment, without craving the results, acting with shraddha, with faith, sincerity. Verse 10 describes this person. Steady in sattva, no doubts, doesn't hate difficult tasks, doesn't cling to pleasant ones, just does what needs doing.
That sounds like a very balanced, steady state. And this source also comes back to the 5 causes of action.
Yes, verse 13 again, just hammering home that these 5 doer, instruments, place, effort, destiny, are behind all actions, good or bad, and reminding us of the instruments.
Right.
Speech, wang, body, sharira, mind, manas.
And it digs into why we think we're the sole doer.
Right. From a Vedanta perspective, seeing the self as the only agent comes from Akarbuditvat, basically. An unrefined intellect, not seeing the bigger picture, and adorna, which means immaturity.
Like not seeing all the threads involved.
Exactly. There's even a reference to Shankara criticizing people who only see the surface level and miss the deeper reality.
Okay. So how does the source break down knowledge, Jnana, based on the gunas?
Sattvic janamam, knowledge and goodness, is seeing the one underlying reality, the unity, Brahma Atma Jnanam, in everything, despite the apparent differences caused by Maya. That's verse 20.
And Rajasic.
Rajasic Jananam sees everything as fundamentally separate and different. Bahuatmavada, verse 21. Tamasic Jananam, verse 22, is just confused, irrational, narrow-minded.
So our very perception of reality is filtered. What about actions, karma?
Sattvic karma. Doing your duty, no attachment, no craving for results. Verse 23. Rajasic karma, driven by ego, attachment, wanting results, often stressful. Verse 24. Tamasic karma, acting recklessly, out of delusion, ignoring consequences or your own ability. Verse 25. It's a really practical checklist for looking at how we act.
Definitely. And does this apply to intellect, buddhi, too?
Oh, yeah. So Vicky Buddhi understands the right path, engagement versus renunciation, right versus wrong, fear versus fearlessness, bondage versus liberation. Verse 30, it sees clearly.
Whereas Rajasi buddhi
Gets dharma and adharma mixed up, confuses right and wrong actions. Verse 31. And tamasi buddhi, verse 32, is completely upside down. Thinking wrong is right.
And determination, dhruti, same pattern.
Same pattern. Sattviki driti, unwavering focus, controlling the mind and senses through yoga, aiming for Brahman, verse 33. Rajasi driti, clinging tightly to duty, wealth, pleasure, dharma, artha, kama, wanting the fruits, verse 34. Tamasi driti, basically being unable to shake off bad habits, laziness, fear, depression, indulgence, verse 35.
It's amazing how pervasive these gunas are. They color everything, including happiness, sukha.
Right. Sattvika sukha might feel tough at first, like poison, but ends like nectar, the joy of self-realization. Verse 37. Rajasa sukha is the opposite. Sense pleasure feels great initially, nectar, but turns sour, poison. Verse 38.
And tamasa sukha.
Deludes you from start to finish. Some sleepiness, laziness, carelessness. Verse 39. And like we said, nothing and no one is free from these 3 gunas born of prakriti, of material nature. Understanding them is key.
It really provides a map for self-understanding. Now, the Gita also talks about duties based on our nature, svabhava.
Yes. Verses 42, 44 describe the qualities and typical work for different groups. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras. But the key point, really, is in verse 47.
Rishas.
Do your own duty, even if imperfectly, rather than trying to do someone else's perfectly. Verse 48 adds that all undertakings have flaws, like fire has smoke. So don't just abandon your natural work because it's not perfect.
It's about finding your place and doing your best there. Acceptance and focused effort.
Exactly. And verse 46 ties this directly to spiritual growth. Worshipping him with one's own duty, man attains perfection. By offering your specific work to the divine source of everything, you purify your mind. That's karma yoga in a nutshell.
Worshipping through your own work. And this leads towards liberation.
Yes. Detachment, self-control, solitude, purification, these lead to realizing Brahma. Verses 49, 53. Then, through that pure state, you gain deep devotion, truly know the Lord, and ultimately merge with him. Verses 54, 55. Verse 56 sums it up. Do your duties, take refuge in him, and by his grace, you reach the eternal abode.
And then comes the supreme secret, the core message.
Verse 64 emphasizes this is special, told out of love. Here again, most secret of all, because you are my dear beloved, I will tell you what is good.
Very personal. And verse 65 is the instruction.
It's the core practice. Fix your mind on me, be devoted to me, sacrifice to me, bow down to me. You will certainly come to me. You are dear to me. Mind, devotion, action, all directed toward the divine.
And the ultimate instruction in verse 66.
Abandon all dharmas and surrender to me alone. I will liberate you from all sins. Grieve not. It's that final total surrender to the Supreme. trusting completely for liberation from everything that binds us.
Wow. That's profound. But Krishna also says who not to share this with.
Right, verse 67, don't teach it to someone without discipline, devotion, service, or who just wants to argue or find fault. It's precious knowledge.
But teaching it to the right person is highly valued.
Extremely. Verses 68, 69 say there's no one dearer to the Lord than one who shares this supreme secret with devotees. It highlights the importance of passing on this wisdom carefully and appropriately.
And how does Arjuna respond to all this?
In verse 73, he gets it. My delusion is gone. I've regained my memory by your grace. I am firm. I will do your word. He's achieved self-knowledge at Mavidya. The teaching has landed.
The transformation is complete. And Sanjaya's final word.
After expressing his own awe, verses 74, 77, he delivers the final verdict in verse 78. Wherever there is Krishna and wherever there is Arjuna, there will be prosperity, victory, welfare, and firm policy. This is my conviction.
Grace and effort together lead to all good things.
That's the bottom line.
What a journey through this final chapter. So we've covered the nuances of renunciation, the factors behind our actions, understanding ourselves through the gunas, and that ultimate call to connect through duty and surrender.
It's a lot, but incredibly rich. So maybe a final thought for you listening. Thinking about those 5 factors of action doer, tools, place, effort, destiny, which one do you tend to maybe forget about or perhaps lean on too much?
Ooh, good question. Or how does shifting from work is worship to worshiping through my work actually change how you feel about your daily grind or your purpose?
Yeah, just something to mull over. How does this ancient wisdom resonate in your life today?
Definitely food for thought. We hope this deep dive has sparked some insights for you. Thanks for joining us.